Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1352. The topic is nutrition and the title is Making Sense of the Chaos. Oof. I think we all feel that way sometimes. So I recently had a person reach out. We decided to work together, so they're now a new client. Yay. Yay for me, yay for them. So they had tracked food. They've been struggling for a while getting their nutrition kind of organized. They said that they tracked food for a week before they reached out because they wanted to have something to send to me and give me something to kind of work with, which was great. It already got them into the habit of kind of tracking food. They had used an app before, like MyFitnessPal, something like that. They had used that before. They wanted to kind of get back into it, so they practiced for a week just before they reached out. Their calories actually varied between 1646, so 1,646, and 4,301. So that means their lowest during that week was 1,646, so 1646. Their highest was 4,301. Pretty crazy. That's ridiculous variant. However, that's incredibly common. That's way more common than what people think it is. Now, they said their reported intent was 3,000 to 3,300 calories. This is about a male around 200-ish pounds. He said he fluctuates between 210 and 215, depending on kind of the way he's eating and whatever his intent is at that kind of season of life. So that's the variant he has, is an almost 3,000 calorie swing when his daily intent is be 3,000 to 3,300. His protein varied from 165 grams to 254 grams, so almost 100 gram swing, and his reported intent was 200 to 225. So this means that on some of the days of the week, he was under his calories, over his calories. Some days of the week, he was under his protein, over his protein. Now, he's only over his protein goal one time. So the rest of it, he was actually at it or below it. His calories, he had that low day of 1646, but the second lowest day was 2,800. So he was averaging more so above his total calories target, and he was averaging more so below his total protein target. Number of meals per day varied from 2 to 6. 2 was on a Saturday. He was running around doing stuff for his kids, I guess. 6 is kind of like the Monday and Tuesday of the week where like everything goes well because it's the least extra crap he has to do. So that tends to be his best schedule, and then it just kind of goes to crap from there for the rest of the week. So he said he's been wanting to get stronger and bigger muscles, but when he eats to gain muscle, he tends to feel too fat. When he eats to lose fat, he tends to feel kind of skinny and weak. So the main issue is just extreme inconsistency. As we asked more questions, we talked a little bit more, found out that there weren't like intentional efforts made towards food. It's kind of a secondary concern. It's front of mind, but not front of action. So this is something where we would say like, I try to eat well. And then you'd ask the person, well, in what ways do you try? And then crickets. Well, I don't always eat as much as I want to eat. Okay, well, I guess that counts as trying to eat healthy, but that's a pretty damn low standard. So this is common where people say, well, I try to do this, or I do pay attention to this, or I think of this. But when you actually ask them in what ways do they show that, there's very little to answer. So he's parent, full-time job, owns their house, which adds extra work. So what he said was, between my spouse, the kids, work, the house, I get my training in. We have a gym set up in our garage because my wife likes to work out, thankfully. But food-wise, I just don't have time to eat healthy. The weekends and evenings are all for the kids. I'm just lost on what to do. This may be the season of my life right now, but my kids are only 4 and 2, and my body and fitness have faded really fast since my first son was born. I can't afford for this season of life to last much longer. So this is, I think, something that a lot of people can identify with is we're overwhelmed with priorities. We're overwhelmed with things to do and people we're accountable for, that we're aware of what would be best for us, but we're not really following through with what it takes to do that. Now, it doesn't mean you don't work hard, doesn't mean lack of intelligence. There's absolutely nothing in regards to like you being inadequate in any way. It's just you have a million freaking things to do. So what helps is having somebody in your corner that can kind of say, don't worry about this, don't worry about this, don't worry about this, but do focus on that and do focus on this, and then help give answers along the way. So this person had been listening to our podcast for a while, tried to do a lot of things on her own, but just kind of got a little lost in the mix and wants help kind of clarifying things. So the steps that we took was setting meal times based on their schedule. Sometimes they would eat 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, 4 meals a day, sometimes 6 meals a day. What we found was, as we kind of kept talking, we extrapolated that past week out to what their common things are, is they do have kind of common windows in which they can find time to eat. So, for example, they are awake before their kids. They like to have a little bit of quiet time before everybody else wakes up, which is very smart to do. So they said that they can wake up and eat somewhere between 5 to 6 a.m. Around 6 a.m., spouse gets up, kids get up, and the day kind of starts. Then, somewhere between 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., they can get food in again. Now, with kids being out of school, it's actually a little... it's easier and harder in some ways. Easier in the sense that you don't have this huge rush to get kids ready for school in the morning, which misses your chance to eat. But it's harder in the sense that since they're now not just gone for most of the day, you do have more accountability throughout the day. So it's not as intense in the beginning of it, but you still have that accountability. So sometime between 7 and 11, they're supposed to eat. Then this person works from home, so they get to work out midday. And they and their spouse kind of take turns. So while the spouse is working out sometime in the morning, I didn't really specify when, he's in charge of the kids and making sure like work things get done. And then she takes over while he works out, and then they share the kid responsibility the rest of the day. Awesome to have a spouse who supports it and kind of understands that each other need their space, their time, so it's great that they're doing that way. So, again, he wakes up and eats something between 5 and 6 a.m., eats again between 7 to 11 a.m., he then works out, then he eats between 1 to 4 p.m., and then between 5 to 8 p.m., then he goes to bed. Usually, he said, by around 10. Sometimes him and his wife will stay up and watch meaningless TV, is how he said it, but it's nice to have a time together. So sometimes they don't get to bed till like 11, but that's kind of the routine. So what this does is this gives him 4 times to eat in a day that he believes can be pretty consistent in regards to the windows of opportunity. It doesn't mean he can only eat, so for example, if he wakes up and eats between 5 and 6 a.m., great, that's good to get that in. Then he has from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. to eat more food. He can eat 2 small little meals, 2 little snacky things in there, or he can eat 1 meal. It doesn't mean that each window can only be 1 meal. We've just identified here are windows of your day, which we want to be mindful of. Hey, my 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. window, as I'm getting to 10:30, have I eaten it all during this window yet? So it's just giving parameters that are kind of like reminders and framework in which they can think of eating. Okay, I want to eat something before 6 a.m. I want to eat something sometime between 7 and 11 because I work out at 11. So I want to eat something before my workout. I'll work out. I want to eat something after my workout, and then I want to eat something later at night with the family. So it's just giving him a framework, kind of like time reminders. Now, that's our ideal scenario. Our worst case scenario, we just labeled as WCS, worst case scenario, is 3 meals. 1 early in the day, 1 midday, 1 end of the day. And this kind of came in on weekends. So, for example, on a Saturday, he ate at breakfast, he ate midday, and then by the time he got home, got the kids all in, wrapped up, whatever they did, he said he just kind of laid down on the couch and fell asleep. And he didn't eat anything. So we were saying that might be a window where No matter how tired you are, get something and then sit on the couch and eat, or eat and then sit on the couch. But just kind of getting in the habit of that. Even if it's only a protein shake, even if it's just something pre-made quick, who cares? He just has to get those calories in if he wants to maintain a fast metabolism that helps him burn off body fat. And also just fights the body's desire to continue to store and maintain body fat. So we need to get those meals in. So worst case scenario is one early, one midday, one end of the day. Then what we looked at was we decided on options of what to eat per meal. And this is actually from the food that they reported. I very rarely and really dislike telling people what to eat. I would rather look at what they eat and then just make adjustments to it, because what you eat doesn't really matter as much as the consistency of calories, the consistency of protein that you have from day to day, and then also having a good even distribution throughout the day. Those things matter before what you eat actually matters. So the other thing is when people ask me to tell them what to eat, they're just going to bitch and whine about what I told them after 3 or 4 days. So like people always tell me, I can eat the same thing every day. I'm totally fine with it. By day 4, can I have something else other than this? And it's like, for the love of God, I told you day 1 that this wasn't going to work. So I like using kind of what people already eat. And again, because it's the 4th most important, it is absolutely not the most important thing. So we have other things to focus on before we worry about what we're eating. So this person had listened to podcast 678. It's a nutrition podcast titled Quick Meals and Easy Food Prep. And they stole a bunch of ideas from that. And that's what they've been doing. So their morning meal is a bagel sandwich. This is the one they have between 5 and 6 a.m. They just toast a bagel. While the bagel's toasting, they pull out lunch meat and cheese. When the bagel's done toasting, they put the lunch meat and the cheese inside the bagel, smush it together, and then they eat it. Done. Quick and easy. Their mid-morning meal has been microwavable chicken sausages and microwavable rice. Yay. And they add yum yum sauce to get enough calories into that meal. During the training, we do Gatorade, and then after the training is a protein shake. Then what we're doing now is they're cooking extra food at dinner, and the extra portion of dinner is going to be the next day's meal between 1 to 4 p.m. They just have to microwave it and then they eat it. And then at between 5 to 8 p.m. they eat dinner. But again, whatever dinner they make that night, they just make an extra portion, and then that becomes their next day's afternoon meal. That is the ideal situation. The worst case scenario is anything that hits our 1/3 targets, which I'll explain below. And it's literally any food. So anything that's available to them between 5 and 6 a.m., they eat it. Anything that's available between them 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., they eat it. It doesn't matter what it is. So if they're traveling and they have to stop at a gas station, I don't care if it's Pop-Tarts and chocolate milk. I don't give a crap what it is. You just got to get your calories in. You have to meet your calories. You have to meet your protein. So sometimes whenever Meredith and I are out and about, I'll get cashews at grocery store, which gives me healthy fats, a decent amount of calories, and then I supplement at the end of the day with a protein drink or something because it's relatively low protein. Sometimes we'll get Core Power drinks depending on where we stop at. Core Power has protein in it, so I can use that with some cashews, and that's a good kind of quick snack. We have Quick Trips, which is the name of the gas station where I live. I grew up in Pennsylvania, so we had Sheetz. If you're familiar with Sheetz, freaking badass. Sheetz is awesome. But Quick Trip is okay compared to Sheetz. But there's pre-made food, like they have a Southwest chicken wrap, which I will get. That's, I think, like 470 calories. So it's a good kind of quick snack for me. But sometimes, anything we'll do is basically we're just trying to hit our calorie targets and our protein targets. Now, speaking of targets, what I have them do is to enter their details of their foods into their nutrition tracking app the night before. Now, what's good about this is this person starts with the same meals kind of templated every day. So that bagel sandwich, microwavable chicken sausages, yum yum sauce, Gatorade protein shake, extra portion of dinner on the day. This person automatically puts in the bagel sandwich, the microwavable chicken sausages and rice, the Gatorade and the protein shake, and then they'll whatever they do for dinner that day, they just save that, name it, and then they put it in the next day. So they actually have streamlined this in a pretty cool way to where they don't have to re-enter data all the time. They just put in saved meals and then make small modifications if they need to. So what we've told him was, on his training days, towards the end of the workout, double check and see where you're at in your food, see if you need to change anything by the end of the day to make sure you're at your target. So this person is, as I said, between 200 to 210, kind of 215 pounds. Our calories and their muscularity levels, their activity levels, and blah, 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 equaled out to where their training day calories are between 3,000 to 3,300. Their non-training days are between 2,700 to 3,000. Their protein is around 180 to 220 grams a day, somewhere in that window. And then the distribution is a third every 6 hours. So in the first 6 hours of being awake, which is their first 2 meals of the day, they want to have a third of their calories and a third of their protein. So in general, that's about 1,000 calories. It's like 900 to 1,100, depending on whether it's a training day or non-training day. So around 1,000 calories. And it would be around 60 to 70 grams of protein. So between their first 2 meals, they want 1,000 calories and 60 grams of protein. Then we have a third in kind of the second 6 hours of being awake, which includes the Gatorade and the protein shake during the workout, and then it includes their 1 to 4 p.m. type meal. So again, about 1,000 calories and about 60 grams of protein. And then for dinner, that 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. window, they again have 1,000 calories and about 60 grams of protein. Now, this makes it to where their calories are evenly distributed throughout the day, but yet their activity is not. Their activity is more so front of the day. So we're starting with the thirds now to get them used to doing that, but then eventually we are going to shift the calories to be more so the front of the day and taper off towards the end of the day. So some of my more advanced clients, they might have half of their calories and protein in the first 2 meals of the day, then a fourth and a fourth. So instead of doing third, they'll do half, fourth. Or if they work out in the middle of the day, it's a fourth, a half, a fourth. So we kind of just spread it out, matching activity levels once the person is able to do that. At first, I just have people focus on thirds because that can be challenging enough if they're kind of new to this. Okay, so that's basically the steps we took. Now, what are the steps you can take? Because that's going to help make more sense for you, is what times do you commonly eat? On some days of the week, do you eat, at breakfast? On some days of the week, do you skip breakfast? On some days of the week, do you eat something kind of in the mid-morning? On some days of the week, do you skip that? If you look through it and you say, okay, well, some days I eat 4 to 5 meals, some days I'll eat 2 or 3. What you would like to do is to make it more consistent. Try to say, okay, well, if I have the capacity to eat within the first 6 hours of being awake, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do that as a regular thing now. Then I'll eat something in the middle of the day, and then I'll eat something at the end of the day. So I at least want to do 3 meals a day, okay, 3 times of eating, and I think I can be consistent with that. Now, you can do it more often if you want, but the idea is to have some kind of consistency where if some days you're at 2 meals a day, some days you're at 6, you now normalize it to be maybe 4 to 5 or 3 to 4. But the variance is smaller and smaller. There's a podcast, 1147 is a nutrition podcast titled Eat Early, Eat Often, Eat to Match. And that one helps explain why it's better to eat earlier in the day and eat often throughout the day. But you want to do that in kind of like application 2 or, whatever the proper word I'm trying to find here is. Make it match your schedule so that way you can be consistent with it. Almost everybody has the capacity to eat something in the first 6 hours of being awake. So you can eat something. You can just get up 10 minutes earlier, God forbid. But we can eat something in the first 6 hours of being awake. I've had clients, where they take thyroid medicine, they can't eat in the first hour, and then all of a sudden they're up and active and they're doing things with their kids and whatnot. So it might be 3-4 hours before they can get food in their face. Fine. That's fine. Just do it. Do it consistently. Other people, they've told me, like, I get sick when I try to eat food in the morning. That's typically a sign of being dehydrated. So you can actually drink Gatorade, like a sugary drink, throughout the morning, and you'll be surprised that you're actually going to get hungrier faster than what you typically would, because it's going to hydrate you, and as your body burns the sugars, it's going to start to look for even more to burn, so it actually spikes hunger levels. So there's a million and one cases I've been through where people do struggle for various reasons, but unless you have some insane specific condition, everybody can eat something within the first 6 hours of being awake. Then you want to eat something in the middle of the day, then something towards the end of the day. So that's the steps you can take, is what times do you commonly eat? Just make them more consistent. At least eat something in the first 6 hours, something in the second 6 hours, and the third 6 hours of being awake. Second thing is, what foods do you commonly eat? Just make them more consistent. So if some meals, some mornings you have, granola and Greek yogurt for breakfast, and then some mornings you're like, I'm just tired, I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to have a nice coffee and go to work. Well, try to be more consistent with the yogurt and granola. Try to do it on a consistent basis. Or at least grab, a banana on the way out, or, some kind of protein bar or something else. Just try to be more consistent with what you eat. So one of the things I told that client was, when they cook food for dinner, cook extra portion for the next day. So that way you have a meal for the next day. You can also cook more than one meal at a time, believe it or not. So I regularly cook in a routine where I'll cook a pasta dinner for my wife Meredith that also has 2 extra servings of pasta, while I microwave 2-minute microwave jasmine rice and broil steak that I'll be eating at that meal. So she's going to get one of the 3 pasta meals. I'll eat steak and rice. I have 2 leftover pasta meals for her, and while I'm doing all that, cooking chicken in our like frying pan thing that has like a lid to it. I don't know what it is, but I just cook chicken thighs. I cut them up with scissors, throw it in a bowl with mayonnaise and grapes, and it's like chicken salad, which gives me 3 meals. So in all the time that I would cook any one of those, I'm actually cooking 3 pasta meals, steak and rice, which is the 4th meal, and 3 chicken salad meals. So in 6 meals, I'm cooking at the time span that I would normally cook 1 meal. Doesn't take me any longer. I do have to be a little organized, and things have to time out well, but I get all the dishes washed, and I get all that made in like 30 minutes. So I cook 6 meals in 30 minutes. Now, I have a lot of practice at this. I also give a shit enough to do it. So that is true that you would have to practice this for it to work, and you'd have to give a shit enough to do it. But you can do it. So why take the time to cook 1 meal when you can cook 2 meals at once, or 3 meals at once, or 6 meals at once? So what we can do is to first, I want you to focus on, stop worrying about what you eat. What you eat doesn't really matter that much. What's more important is that you're consistent. So podcast 1131 is a nutrition podcast titled The Need for Caloric Consistency. And that'll explain why being consistent with your calories is the most impactful thing you can do, regardless of what you actually eat. So if you want to reduce confusion, saying, oh, geez, I didn't know that. I thought I had to eat, everything like brown rice, brown bread. I thought I had to eat, organic this. I thought I had to eat 0 grams of sugar all day. If you want to reduce confusion, listen to podcast 1232. It's a nutrition podcast titled Start Here. It literally tells you what steps to take to organize your nutrition. And if you want to lower the pressure, because you always feel like it's all or nothing, and you have to have everything right, or it's all a complete waste of time, podcast 1246 is a mindset podcast titled The Benefits of Starting Slow. So listen to podcast 1232. Start with what it tells you to start with. Don't go any faster. Do it step by step. And through podcast 1246, you'll learn why it's beneficial to just go step by step by step. How many times do we try to start everything at once, to be burned out, flustered, confused, frustrated, then we quit? So we start, we quit, we start, we quit, we start, we quit. We never get anywhere. Anywhere. You're the same damn place today as you were then when you first ever quote unquote started. Starting slow allows you to build the first habit. Allows that first habit to become an actual habit. Something you do when you're not even paying attention to it. Then you can build the second, then the third, then the fourth. In the same amount of time it's taken you to start and stop 700 times, you could have been where you want to be and already been enjoying it. Okay? So I hope that this helps. So if we look at making sense of the chaos, it is very normal that everyone is chaotic. So there's nothing wrong with you. Your life isn't any different than anybody else's. Everybody's crazy and try to deal with it. But the steps you can take is just to be more consistent with your eating. Don't worry so much about what foods you eat. Just be consistent with what you're eating to the types of foods, consistent to get your calories right. It's just trying to eliminate the variance. On days you skip meals, stop doing that. On days you overeat, you'll be amazed that you probably won't have the desire to overeat if you stop missing all those damn meals. So just be more consistent. All the podcasts we named will help towards that. Podcast 1147, Podcast 1232, Podcast 1246. All those will help. Okay? Well, if you have any questions, if you need anything, just reach out. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. I appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. I really I hope that it helps you in the ways that you need the help. If there's ever a question you have, anything you need, just let us know. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like our podcast, if you think it's helpful, please consider sharing it. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. So if you share it on social media, that does reach the most amount of people. But you can even just share it in a conversation with a friend. That's helpful as well. Thank you to the patrons of the podcast, people who financially support the podcast, which you can now do so on our website. We have a donation link there. You can do a one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donation. We appreciate it that you do it. The podcast is well over $1,000 a year for hosting costs. I give an hour to it every single day. I truly appreciate the financial help so that we continue to do this for free and every day. So thank you very much. If you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and at YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. And as we said, if you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything that you want to know, let us know at our email, brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.